What's up, everybody? Alex here. Welcome back to another video, and welcome to a jazz video. Warning, all jazz here. So for all my friends, fans, family that are not into this sort of thing, just beware. That's all we're going to be talking about today. You know, I've been thinking about doing some sort of jazz primer for newbies sort of video for a while, although I will say it's not the most original idea, and that's not what this video is. This video is purely a jazz video based on sort of a haul, I guess, of things I've purchased over the last month or so, 2 months, whatever it's been, because of just some insane sales that have gone on online through some various retailers. So I wanted to show some of those records and talk a little bit about them. I recognize again, like, that most people who watch me or this are not jazz people. And if you are a jazz person and you're watching this, you're probably going to be like, why am I listening to this man in this mustard ass looking hoodie talk about jazz? That is not his thing. And you would be right. You know, jazz is something I would consider myself still a novice in, but I think that's what makes it so fun and interesting. I do love it. I've had people ask me, do you really like it, or do you just, you know, say you like it or something, as if I'm looking for some kind of social status with, you know, jazz cats in the back alleys or something. So I really do like it. And I think what's exciting for me is I like the idea of exploration and learning and history. And it feels like discovering your favorite artists all over again and going down the rabbit holes and connecting the dots and all those different things. So very long answer. But I want to show you all the things that I got. So there's 2 used records that I'll be showing. The rest were brand new, either from Udiscover or The Sound of Vinyl or even Amazon, because they were doing the same thing when the other 2 kind of places were doing it, where these were either Blue Note Classic releases or Blue Note Tone Poet releases for half off, which is absurd, right? If you're someone who is a vinyl jazz collector, you know all about the Blue Note Tone Poets and the Blue Note Classic series. It is a award-winning, outstanding reissue series focused on reissuing titles that may have been long out of print or where originals cost a gazillion dollars. But essentially it is an audiophile cut by Kevin Gray type of reissue that sounds amazing, arguably the best sounding records that they've ever sounded, for a really good price already. So a Blue Note Classic title typically retails for around $27 or $28, and a Blue Note Tone Poet, which is sound-wise, again, outstanding, but the presentation's a little bit better. Those typically will retail around $39, $40. And so when these were half off, I wanted to gobble them up, you know, so that's what I wanted to do. And again, there's a couple of used records I want to show and a huge box set that was an absolute steal. So, you know, without further ado, I will add commentary where I can, but also I recognize too, like, if you're, I'm not a very smart man when it comes to this style of music, but 2 used records I want to get out of the way first. These were both just great deals. I think, you know, maybe paid $5 or $8 or something for each of these. And the first is Oregon in Concert. This is from 1980. I've spoken about Oregon before, kind of not really capital J jazz. They more fall into sort of a little bit of fusion, a little bit of world music, I think led by Ralph Towner. Later in the 80s, they had 3 records on ECM. Those are sort of as I think as formal jazz fusion as they really got, but this is their live album from 1980, which is just outstanding. And one of the big reasons I wanted to get this is it is a white label promo on Elektra. So again, for $5 to add it to the Oregon collection was kind of a no-brainer. Speaking of ECM, anytime I can find an ECM record for, again, $5, $8, especially if it's somebody I'm not as familiar with, I'm going to do it. To me, it's like, you know, for a jazz novice out there, if there's other ones, if you see records on ECM, they're probably amazing and they're not very expensive, and they just sound great and they're just produced well. It's all good stuff. But this is the record Ecstasy by Steve Kuhn. A solo kind of piano outfit, but this was outstanding. This is not as sort of basic solo piano jazz as maybe like a Keith Jarrett, although I love Keith Jarrett. This is a little bit more out there, a little bit more spacey, but I loved this. This was, as they say, perfect Sunday morning listening. Steve Kuhn with the record Ecstasy on ECM. Okay, so this is kind of a banger box set that I believe I got for $35, $40 because it was already clearanced at half off, and then it was half off of that. So I guess if this thing retailed originally for $160, it would come down to $40, something like that. But it is John Coltrane, 1963, New Directions. Yeah, this is a 5 LP box set looking at all of his recordings from 1963. Now, I have most of, or specifically his recordings of 1963 that were on Impulse. Now, I have most of the Coltrane stuff from this period. Sans a couple of things, but this fills in the gaps really well. I was kind of worried that this was just going to be a packaged reissue of 5, Impulse titles or whatever from 62, 63, 64, but it's not. It's some of the stuff. There's a lot of stuff from the Johnny Hartman, John Coltrane album. There's a lot of stuff. There's like 4 different takes of Impressions on here. There's a lot of stuff from Live at Birdland, which is great because I don't have that one. And then kind of stuff scattered all over the place. There's obviously My Favorite Things on here. You have some stuff, I believe, from Ballads. So, yeah, 5 LPs of Coltrane from 1963 for, again, $40 in a box set. What a steal that is, and I'm stoked to obviously have that. Here's an artist I am not as familiar with, and that is a pianist, Horace Parlan. And this is the Horace Parlan Quintet, Speaking My Piece. Looks like this was originally released in 1960. The Turrentine brothers on here, Tommy Turrentine and Stanley Turrentine. Horace Parlan, obviously, on piano, George Tucker on bass, and Al Harwood on drums. Really cool stuff. Again, it was $13. This is the Blue Note Classic type stuff. Sounds incredible. It's great for just sort of building out the collection without dropping mega dollars. And super excited to dive in and have Horace Parlan. Here was another guy that I had heard of but was not as familiar with, and that is Cliff Jordan, and this is Cliff Craft. This originally came out here in 1957. So this is Blue Note 81582. Cliff Jordan, Art Farmer on trumpet, Sonny Clark on piano, George Tucker again on bass, and Louis Hayes on the drums. So yeah, great cover. Him just ripping with that tenor sax. So yeah, good stuff. Now into stuff I'm a little bit more familiar with. Big fan of the Horace Silver Quintet, and this is Blowing the Blues Away. Horace Silver Quintet and Trio came out in 1959. Blue Mitchell on drums, Junior Cook on tenor sax, of course Horace Silver, great pianist. Eugene Taylor on bass, and then Louis Hayes again on the drums. Horace Silver is one of those guys that has put out so much great stuff, and his stuff actually was pretty good into the 70s as well. Here is another sax player introducing Johnny Griffin. We have Wynton Kelly on piano, Curly Russell on bass, and then Max Roach on drums. This one came out in 1956. Blue Note 1533, an early one. So this is part of the Blue Note 80th series, which was the precursor to the Blue Note Classic series. Really, the great cutoff is if you're able to know that this is part of the 80th, that's the best place to start. This was mastered or remastered, cut from original analog tapes by Kevin Gray. The 75th series, they weren't doing that yet. So people have kind of looked at the 75th series from 75th anniversary series from a couple of years ago and poo-poo it a little bit just because it would get so much better. And so if you're looking to get into the jazz audiophile reissue stuff, 80th is the way to go. So you got your 80th, your Blue Note Classic, which came next, and then your Blue Note Tone Poets, which I'll show here in a second. So this is part of the 80th, which means it's missing that cute hype sticker that we'll see. Here's one of these artists where if I see it, I'm going to buy it. He's one of my favorites. He's a lot of people's favorites. He's a brilliant genius that has just, he's continuing to do amazing stuff. But that, of course, is Herbie Hancock. Imperial Isles, this has been on my radar for a while. So excited to get this again down to, whatever it was, $13. Freddie Hubbard's on here. Of course, Herbie, Ron Carter, and Anthony Williams. So you're kind of looking at sort of the second Miles Davis quintet minus Wayne Shorter, and then replacing Miles with Freddie Hubbard, which ain't bad. So yeah, Imperial Isles from Herbie Hancock. Amazing, amazing stuff. Let's see, that originally came out in '64. More Herbie Hancock. This one came out in '68. And this is Speak Like a Child. Again, part of that Blue Note Classic series. Yeah, again, this whole era is just outstanding. Doing the Sorcerer on here, which of course would end up being on, I guess was on Miles Davis record right before that, right after it. Regardless, it's Herbie, man. Speak Like a Child. Great stuff from '68. Here is another saxophone player that has been one of these people. If I see it, I want to get it. A collector of his, I guess. I remember somebody, a writer or a reviewer, somebody mentioned that this saxophonist is like a chameleon. Like he'll just blend into whatever group he's in. If you put him in and he wants to do some out there, squonking great stuff, he'll do that. If you just want him to be a little bit more laid back and just fit in, he'll do that too. Whatever he ends up doing, he's going to be great at it. And that's the great Hank Mobley. This is No Room for Squares, came out in 1964. Lee Morgan, we'll get to him in a second on trumpet. Andrew Hill on piano, love Andrew Hill. His stuff on Blue Note's outstanding. John Orr on bass, and Philly Joe Jones on drums. Yeah, anything Hank Mobley I'm into. No Room for Squares is this record. And here's the next one. Hank always be smoking on these covers. This one's coming from 1962, and this is Work Out. Hank Mobley again on tenor sax, just ripping. Grant Green on guitar, Wynton Kelly on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, and Philly Joe Jones on drums. So a couple of early Miles Davis quintet people on here, but yeah, just great stuff. I would recommend, Hank Mobley is one of those people that I would recommend for people trying to get into it, right? Like, he's not going to turn anybody off. Again, he's a chameleon. He just sort of fits into whatever's going on. Speaking of getting into stuff, and another great saxophonist that was doing some great stuff into the 70s and later too, he just kept making records, and that's Dexter Gordon. This is Getting Around from 1966. He's on tenor sax. Bobby Hutcherson, I've talked about before, on the vibraphones. Good Vibes Only. Barry Harris on piano. Bob Cranshaw on bass. And Billy Higgins, who I think we just lost a few weeks ago, on drums. Yeah, Dexter Gordon's another one of those guys that, he's just amazing, right? Like, if you're looking for a place to start, Dexter Gordon is a great place to start. This next artist was somebody who was probably my first person that I was like, dang, like, I gotta get into that guy. Like, he's pretty dope. There's an amazing, I forget the platform, but a great documentary out there called, they call him Morgan, I think. Anyway, I'm talking about Lee Morgan, and this is Infinity. Jackie McLean on alto sax, Larry Willis on piano, Reggie Workman on bass, and again, Billy Higgins on drums. Now, this is what is part of the Blue Note Tone Poet series. You'll get that type of height sticker with this. Blue Note Tone Poets, they're a little bit sort of fancier in terms of their presentation. You get a full gatefold with some beautiful original pictures. Just absolutely killing it. But Lee Morgan, again, if you're looking for, if you're looking to get into jazz and you're looking for a trumpeter, it's Miles Davis. But Miles had so many eras, it's tough to pick the wrong one if you're not directly into it, right? But I think if you're looking for a great trumpet player to dive into, my two next ones after Miles, I'd go Lee Morgan for sure, and maybe like Freddie Hubbard or something like that. But yeah, great stuff. Infinity. This is Lee Morgan, Gigolo. Gigolo. Anyway, this is 1968 here. Wayne Shorter ripping this one up on tenor sax. Get to him in a second. Harold Neighborn Jr. on piano, Bob Cranshaw and Billy Higgins. Again, a lot of Billy Higgins recently. Yeah, great stuff again. $13, Blue Note Classic. Absolutely amazing. Here was a Tone Poet release, but this one's a little bit different. But this is Donald Byrd, Bird's Eye View. I believe this was originally on the Transition label, which was a very short-lived label that were made of like styrene or something. Anyways, like originals are like $1 gazillion. I love Donald Byrd. I love his early stuff. I love his funkier soul stuff in like the late 60s, 70s is amazing. So yeah, if Donald Byrd's on the list of things to get, I'm gonna get it. And yeah, amazing stuff. Donald Byrd, Bird's Eye View. I've been looking at this one for a while, mainly because it's Jackie McLean, but also because the damn cover is so damn cool, and that is Demon Dance. This is from 1970. What a cover that is, huh? This, again, is Blue Note Tone Poet here. Great gatefold. Awesome, awesome stuff. Woody Shaw, who is out there a little bit. Scott Holt, Jack DeJohnette, who I absolutely love, and Lamont Johnson. So this is out there a little bit. Like if you want to stretch a little bit, but you don't want to go like full Sun Ra, Pharoah Sanders type stuff, this is a heck of an album to go to. I love Jackie McLean, Demon's Dance. Incredible, incredible record. More Jackie McLean here, back to Blue Note Classic. Again, this was $13. Bluesnick. Yeah, I mean, this was 1962 here. Freddie Hubbard, just mentioned him on trumpet, of course, Jackie McLean on alto sax, Kenny Drew this time on piano, Doug Watkins on bass, and then Pete LaRocca on the drums. Jackie McLean's amazing. I mean, he's one of those guys that I have now familiarized myself enough with to say, that's going to be dope. Three more. This was another classic, this was another tone poet, and includes two of my favorite people, Jackie McLean on sax, like I just said, and then the great Kenny Dorham on trumpet. Kenny Dorham out of Texas on trumpet. Yeah, this is good stuff. This is Into Something, Walter Bishop Jr., Leroy Vinegar, and Art Taylor. Good stuff. This was on Pacific Jazz Records. Came out all the way back in 1962. And of course, they took Jackie McLean from Blue Note, so he's on here with credit to Blue Note. And then last two, I love this. This might be my favorite sax player ever, outside of Coltrane. I feel like Coltrane's just like the obvious pick. But to me, if I could get anything by this artist, I'm going to get it. And that is Wayne Shorter. This is Juju from 1965. McCoy Tyner on piano, coming over from Coltrane's quartet, Reggie Workman and Elvin Jones. So actually, a couple members from Coltrane's camp. So yeah, awesome stuff. Wayne Shorter, he did so much. He did the solo stuff. He did all the stuff with, of course, Miles Davis. He then went on to form Weather Report. All great stuff. And then last, another Wayne Shorter. I was waiting for this one, and that is Schizophrenia. All from 1969. So we're definitely getting into some of that more out there, post-bop type world. James Spaulding on this one, playing alto sax and flute, to go with Wayne playing his tenor. Curtis Fuller adding the trombone, which certainly adds another layer to this. His good buddy Herbie Hancock coming over, Ron Carter and Joe Chambers on drums. This is a wild record, and I love that cover too. Again, it's a little out there. It's not too out there, right? So I think, again, if you're trying to spread those wings a little bit, what a great place to start. So there you go. This was a pretty terrible video, 20 minutes long of me just showing a bunch of shit I bought. But that's YouTube sometimes. So now I can put these away and feel like I did my duty by posting a video about it. So I don't know. Are you a jazz fan? Do you want to get into jazz? Do you, if you are huge into jazz, did I do okay? What are your thoughts, feelings, etc.? And yeah, let me know. We'll see you on the next one. And take care of yourselves and each other. Bye, y'all.